Pre-calculus. We're going to pick up our notes today and finish them up for 6.5 Part B. Now, a few classes actually got started on this example, but I know at least one class did not. So if you've already started this example with me, feel free to fast forward to where we're at in your notes. All right, this one has an x-axis reflection. It has an amplitude of 3. And the period's a little different here because this problem actually has a pi with the number in front of x. So the period is actually going to be 2 pi, because that's what we always divide by, or divide into, and then we divide by what's in front of x, so divide by 2 pi. So your period has a length of 1. What you're going to notice right away is that our x-axis will be scaled by integers now, not with multiple or with units of pi. So our period's going to be one integer, one space, a distance of 1. What you're going to do now is you're going to take this, because we have a phase shift, and we're going to set that equal to 0 and 2 pi. And we did that in our previous example. So you guys had written down right here that the left and right endpoints of one cycle are found by solving these two equations. That's what I did here. I took x minus pi over 2 equal to 0 and 2 pi. And those x values became the endpoints of one cycle. We're going to do that same thing here. So we're going to basically take 2 pi x, solve for x, and those cancel. Over here, subtract over 4 pi, and we'll get a -1. So when you make your xy table for this graph, we're going to go from -2 to -1. All right, halfway between -2 and -1 is -3/2, so -1.5. Halfway between -1.5 and -2 is -1 3/4, so that's -7/4. And then halfway between -1 and -1/2 is -1 1/4, so -5/4. Now, if that was too crazy for you, you can always think of it this way. -2 is -8/4. Then I have -6/4, and I have -4/4. And if you go to the middle of each of these, you're going to see -7/4 and -5/4. So hopefully that helps you understand the numbering on your for your x's here. Okay, let me get rid of all of this extra stuff. Okay, for the first few x values, I'm actually going to substitute them into my equation so that you understand where I'm getting my y value. After that, I'm just going to go around my unit circle here. And work with these ordered pairs. All right, so to plug in the -2 first, I'm going to have y equals -3 cosine 2 pi times -2 plus 4 pi. So I have substituted my x value in up here in my equation for x. And you can see that guy right there. All right, I'm going to have y equals -3 cosine of -4 pi plus 4 pi, so cosine of 0. So actually I'm starting right here. This says the cosine of 0, I'm right here. The cosine is x, so I take the 1. All right, y equals -3 times 1, so -3. All right, I said I would do a couple rounds just to prove to you that I'm going to stay on my unit circle. So I'm going to plug in -7/4 next. All right, let's see, 2 cancels into 4. I'll have negative 7 pi over 2 plus 4 pi. Well, that's negative 3.5 plus 4, which is 1/2, which takes me to the next location on my unit circle, pi over 2. So again, I'm reading my x value there. My x value at pi over 2 is 0. And negative 3 times 0 is 0. All right, to do my next one, I will end up taking my x value right here times negative 3, and I will get positive 3. Oh, let me do that. And then I will come around here and take my x value, which is 0, times a negative 3, and I'm back to 0. And then I end up right back here. 3 times 1 is 3. So we have that pattern coming back. Oh, I messed that up. Negative 3 times 1 is 3. Negative 3. I need a negative there. What I start with and what I end with will be exactly the same. Okay, moving on to my number line. So a lot of it's here on the negative x's. So I'm going to kind of move my y-axis down a little bit. I'm going to put a negative 1 here, a negative 2 here, maybe even do a negative 3. And then, let's see, my scale's not that great, so let me move this a little bit more. There we go. Make that a 1. Okay, I have halfway marks. And then these little guys will be my quarters. So just like on a ruler. All right. Then I'm going to just plot my ordered pairs. I'm going to designate this as 3 and this as negative 3. All right, we're ready to go. Negative 2, negative 3 down here. Negative 7/4, so negative 1 3/4, 0. Negative 1.5, 3. Negative 1 1/4, 0. And then I'm back down to negative 3. So it's cross the x-axis up to 3, cross, down to 3, cross, up to 3, down, and down. Likewise, I will come over here and carry on with my pattern. Now the goal is to again get about 2 cycles graphed. And you want to try to make these rounded, but my scale is pretty small, so that's as good as it's going to get today. All right, the next part of your notes, we're going to now reintroduce the D. D is your vertical shift. So the next set of graphs will be shifting these up, down, left, and right. Okay, let me erase this as an old warm-up. I actually have a warm-up for you ready on your board in the classroom based on the test you just took. Okay, you'll see that when we return back to the building after spring break, or maybe tomorrow. All right, sketch the graph of y equals sine 2x minus 3. So we have an amplitude of 1, our period, 2 pi divided by 2, and then we have a vertical shift of down 3. Now, our previous 2 problems had parentheses to show a phase shift. Right there and right here. This problem does not have parentheses, so there's no phase shift. When there's no phase shift, I'm simply going to go with, on my XY table, 0 to pi. So if my period is pi, then this is going to be 0 to pi. When I have a phase shift, then I have to go back and do what I did earlier, where I set these equal to 0 and 2 pi, and then they become where I start and end a cycle. But on our example here, we don't have a phase shift, So we're simply using the length of one period for our first and last x values. All right, you guys know that halfway between 0 and pi is pi over 2. And if I take half and I cut it in half, so halfway between 0 and pi over 2 is pi over 4. And halfway between pi over 2 and pi is 3 pi over 4. So we've got our quarters in there. And then from here, it's just a matter of finding your y's. And I'm going to go back. I always go back and revisit this unit circle. So I'm here at 0. Let's get that ordered pair right. I'm up here at 0, 1 at pi over 2. I'm over here at -1, 0 at pi. And I'm down here at 0, -1, which is 3 pi over 2. All right, for the first couple rounds, I'm actually going to plug them in and show you how I say on my unit circle. So I will have y equals sine of 2, my x is 0, minus 3. Order of operations is going to tell you to multiply the angle by 2, then apply the sine, then subtract 3. So we do the yellow part first. 2 times 0 is 0. Then we find the sine of 0, which is the y at 0, which is 0, and then we subtract 3. So subtracting 3 is the last thing that you do. I'm going to put in pi over 4 next. So I'll have y equals sine of 2 times pi over 4 minus 3. That's the sine of pi over 2 minus 3. The sine at pi over 2 is 1, so I have 1 minus 3, which is -2. All right, so for pi over 2, I will double that. I'll end up here at pi. Its sine is 0. 0 minus 3 is minus 3. 3 pi over 4, I'll double that. I'll end up here at 3 pi over 2. The sine is -1. -1 minus 3 is -4. And then I'm back here where I started. 0 minus 3, -3. So what's happening is your midline is no longer the x-axis. It's going to be y equals -3. So you're bouncing up and down from -3. So you went from -3 and you went up, and then you went back down to -3, then you went down to -4, and then you went back up to -3. So it's that down, up, down, down, and then back up. We'll see that here when we graph it. All right, so for my scale, I'm going to do probably pi over 2, pi, keep on going here to the right, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi, and then I'm just going to go backwards pi over 2. Let's see here. We're going to have everything is down below. So 1, 2, 3. Let me do that one again. 3, 4. So there's -4. All right, you move the entire graph down 3. So y equals -3 is going to be your midline. So that's going to be the line that cuts our graph basically in half. And that's your vertical shift. So we moved it down 3, so our midline's y equals -3. All right, 0, -3. This is pi over 4, -2. Pi over 2, -3. 3 pi over 4, -4. Pi, -3. And then I just keep on going. Likewise, I can go backwards, and so on. So here's my graph.